In this video, we will provide a brief overview of the Gazepoint remote eye tracking software and camera. We will begin with a brief discussion of what eye tracking is and how this program can be used for research purposes, as well as some of the specific advantages and limitations of this tool. Next, we'll provide a quick introduction to using the product, including getting users set up with the camera and software, collecting data, and analyzing and exporting data.
Eye tracking was originally developed to analyze how people read and access information on a page. The technology has a wide range of applications, including website and application testing, human-computer interaction, neuroscience and psychology, learning and education, sports, and marketing. There are several advantages to remote eye tracking technology. Amongst other things, it provides a tremendous amount of data about users' interactions. It can also be used with many types of media, including websites, photos, and more. The technology is an unobtrusive method of collecting information as the user interacts with the screen naturally as the data is collected. There's nothing to distract them. There are several disadvantages to this technology. Amongst other things is the fact that although it shows where a user is looking, it doesn't explain anything as to why they're looking there, what they're thinking about, their psychological state when doing so. Some caveats to using this technology: there's no autosave function, so please do be sure to save your data frequently. The risk of data loss without that function is of course very high, especially because the unit does have a tendency to overheat. When it does so, it will not work even if you restart it. This might include freezing. Freezing is generally a good indication the device has been on too long and it needs a rest. The last limitation here is, of course, the fact that this is limited to desktop use. It cannot be used in the field since it's linked to a computer, as opposed to some other types of eye tracking technology which can be used in the field. And of course, even used at the desktop, the device will only detect eye motions that are directed at the screen. If the user gazes away at some other object that's not on the computer screen, the device will not record that information.
There are two Gazepoint RET devices in the ETRA Department UX Lab at NIU. They are both on Windows machines. You must have both the control and the analysis applications open to use the program. It is recommended that you create a separate folder for each project rather than housing multiple projects in the same folder. If you are working on a project with other people, be sure to share it in a place that can be accessed by all of you. The default is the Documents folder that is attached to the account of the person who is signed in to that computer. Inside the Control application, click on the Calibrate icon in the upper left corner of the dialog box. Ensure your head is inside the head box. This is a virtual area inside which the Gazepoint device can detect your eyes. If they are outside this area, the device will not work. Follow the on-screen instructions. The program will take you through a series of automated calibrations where you will follow some dots across the screen. Click Calibrate and calibrate the camera by looking at the dot moving around on the screen. Your accuracy level must be 4 out of 5, ideally 5 out of 5 for each eye in order to achieve an accurate reading. If you do not pass the calibration test, use the window in the Control application and adjust the camera to make sure the user is centered in the top square and that each eye appears in the lower squares. You may want to sit back from the camera for the best readings. Don't sit too close to it. Once the user's gaze is calibrated, you are ready to begin collecting data. Now we're going to talk about uploading media and collecting data. When you create your project, as we noted earlier, you want to make sure to save it in the folder you designated for your project because all of your data and your video and your audio will go into that folder. The next thing you want to do is add the media you're testing. As you can see, you can import images, text, video, and websites, among other media. Open the Analysis application and import your media, the image, video, web page. In this case, it's going to be a web page, into the program. You want to be sure to get the full web address, including the HTTP: and the slashes. And then once you've put that in there and given it a title, you will be ready to collect your data. So you want to go to the Collect Data button menu on the top of the box and hit the Record button in the menu banner. And a new window will open with your image, video, in this case website, and the user can begin his or her tasks. In this task session, the user has been asked to locate information about application deadlines for the PhD program in instructional technology from the NIU website. And once your participant has completed his or her task, you can stop the recording. Minimize the window and hit stop recording in the analysis program to end the session. Now we're going to talk about adding users. You can add and edit users and their demographic information on your recording list, which is on the left-hand column of your screen. You can add the user's name, age, and gender. The system will automatically generate a different color for representing different users' gaze data as they complete their task or tasks. After aligning your new user in the head box in the control section, perform the calibration on this new user in the control application and simply hit record and you're ready to go. Once you've collected your data, you are ready to analyze it. The first step in that process is defining areas of interest, or AOI. You can define different areas of interest on your media and see how your users interact with those specific areas. Your statistics will be gathered primarily based on the defined areas of interest. Luckily, you can change these areas of interest as needed, so you are not locked into the first AOIs you define. To add an area of interest, play the recording of your user interaction and hit the pause button to stop that recording where you want to add the areas of interest and collect data on the user's interaction with those areas. Additionally, it's important to understand that for each web page you wish to gather data on will have its own areas of interest, so that even a simple task like finding the application deadlines for the instructional technology PhD program on the NIU site can create a great deal of data depending on how many areas of interest you choose to define. You can add these areas of interest by clicking the plus sign and dragging your mouse over the areas you wish to explore. Be sure to name them very clearly so that you can easily identify them in your data set. In this case, we're defining the right-hand menu and the search box. Now you also want to make sure that the colors you use when creating areas of interest are easily visible. The NIU site has a lot of red, so that obviously is not a good color choice for this task. Now, all of the data from the user's interaction with that area of interest, including the amount of time before the viewer first interacted with that area, which is called time to first fixation, and how long he or she viewed it down to hundredths of a second, will be automatically collected and displayed in the data set. Once you have your data and you've collected all of it, you can start to analyze it. Visualization allows you to graphically see how your users interact with the media. Different methods of representation will provide different information, so your choice of how to represent the data will depend on your research questions. You can look at the data in a couple of different ways. A heat map is pretty much what you would expect from the name. It will show you the hot spots of where users have focused their attention on your media, and it's not going to give you any detailed information about individual user behavior. It's really more useful for understanding user behavior in the aggregate. The fixation map will give you more details on the individual user level. So you can look and see the first onset of where they looked, so time to first fixation, how long they looked at it, which again is recorded down to the hundredth of a second. In this case, we can see that our two users interacted very differently with the same site. So this can be very useful data for our particular research question about user interaction in searching for information on the NIU website. An important reminder, and I cannot stress this enough, is that you want to save your project regularly as you're working on it. You want to save early, you want to save often. Especially when you've been using the program for a long time, as noted earlier, it can get overheated and freeze up, and it would be awful to lose all of your hard work. A lot of us have become accustomed to autosave, so be sure to be really aware of this and that need to save your project when you make changes. To take a look at your data, click on the little icon on your taskbar that says AOI. It will open up in the left-hand column. You can look at your statistical data by clicking on Show Stats in the AOI settings. It will show you detailed statistics for each area of interest you have defined. You will want to click the refresh button at the bottom of the AOI list before you export the data so you don't lose anything. The last step we're going to cover is exporting your data. Click on Export on the taskbar to export your data. It will go right into the folder you made at the beginning. As you can see, you can export your video, including or excluding audio, as well as the CSV data. The default format for CSV files on this PC is Excel. One thing you want to remember is if you're saving to the PC, it will default to the account of the person who's logged into it. So be sure to make a backup of that data if you are not that person. In our case, we're just going to export the CSV data. And once it's completed, you can open up your folder and see all of it's in there. You'll see the data summary as well as separate files for each of the users. When you open the file, you'll see lots of information from time to first fixation on the areas of interest, how many times users revisited them, and lots more. So you can see how cool it is that the program organizes and displays data so clearly. And I want to remind you again that for each time you redo the AOI, it will pull this in for that new set of data. So it's really, really well designed in that respect. So in summary, Gazepoint is a great program for examining user behavior in web-based and computer-based applications. It gathers a lot of data and it organizes it and displays it very well. You can redefine those areas of interest as many times as you like, but unfortunately it gets hot and it freezes if you use it for a long time.